I know some of you, I know some of you guys in here are pretty seasoned traders, at least in ES and NQ. So if you guys have a lot of experience under your belt, just know that this is going to be pretty basic. So you wouldn't hurt my feelings if you tuned in to watch the Seahawks game. Um, I'm rooting for the Seahawks. I don't like the Rams, but I'm rooting for the Seahawks. So yeah, if you guys wanted to watch the game too, you could. But nevertheless, I'm gonna get started in just a quick second. What's up, Nico? I gave you permissions, like I added you as a co-host, dude. So we don't get any unforeseen circumstances like we've had in the past because I want everything to be recorded for those who couldn't make it. But of course, if we do have unforeseen circumstances, I can't disrespect someone's privacy either. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and then people can just keep trickling in because I want these sessions to be an hour long. I don't really want it to go super, super far out, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because I'd rather keep it clear and concise and not too wordy for people. Because I don't know about you guys, but I have a short attention span and I like to keep things simple. So that's what I aim to do with you guys. I always aim to do that for those who come to one-on-ones as well. And by the way, if any of this doesn't make any sense afterwards for whatever reason, just shoot me a DM on Discord and I'm happy to clarify anything, or we can just schedule a call. So without further ado, welcome to Futures Clinic. This is the product of several months worth of planning, back testing, um, just going over data, win rates, win percentages, getting a feel for heat seeker and how they line up with ES and NQ. And basically, this entire clinic is going to basically go over A to Z how we can use futures for our zero DTE trading, just as much as how we can use heat seeker and zero DTE trading to be a better futures trader. There's a saying I came up with. Um, that is, so we have heat seeker. Heat seeker gives us insights into the market. It tells us why, and futures tells us where. So the whole point of me getting on here and giving you like my compilation of the research that I have released for you guys is to teach you how I figured out where. Um, and I also did include VIX into the equation. It's not something I use a ton, but I do use it when I do see potential inflection points in the market, and I'll teach you guys that too. So without further ado, uh, we're gonna basically be talking about today more so about what futures are in general and why you should trade them, right? So like we'd have to understand the vehicle before we know how to drive it. So I want to start with like a little bit of the why I even bother doing this and why I always recommend newer traders or even just newer to Skylit traders trade futures, right? So for those who don't know, prop firms exist as a method for us to be able to trade futures at a low startup cost. It's less risk to us and it's more forgiving through the learning curve, especially as you're learning to just trade in general, just as much as it is for learning how to use Skylit. So prop firms can be utilized in that regard to our advantage when used appropriately, right? So that's to say, like, if you opened up a $50 evaluation account for a $50,000 funded account, um, and you use that account to scale up a profit target of $3,000, or you have a max drawdown of $2,000, if you hit minus $2,000, you're not losing $2,000, you're losing the $50 evaluation fee, right? So in theory, we can uh, put down like a fee to open up an evaluation, pass it, hit the profit target, and get a payout where your initial startup was $50 or $100 for an activation fee, and you just made a $2,000 payout. So, uh, especially for those who find themselves getting uh, maybe a little bit less or kind of get like buck fever to say like hesitation, analysis paralysis. I'm hoping that futures kind of bridges that gap that gives you a little bit more confidence to make those mistakes, right? Because um, we as traders are not going to be perfect right off the bat, right? So using futures almost as like a sandbox while also giving you the opportunity to earn payouts is fantastic in of itself, right? So there's 50K accounts that we can trade off, and there's 100K accounts, and there's 150K accounts. There's a bunch of different futures out there. I'm just going to cover ES and NQ and their micro counterparts, MES and MNQ, um, for the purpose of this futures clinic, right? So, um, yeah, with that in mind, too, um, passing that first evaluation does give you that opportunity to earn that payout, right? And you also have the ability to purchase multiple accounts too. So let's say you hit profit target of $2,000 and you request a withdrawal. Um, if you have multiple accounts, you can withdraw multiple payouts, right? So if your first payout was $1,500, 1,500 times five, that is $7,500. Um, because you have five accounts, just maybe as an example, right? So yeah, the startup costs and the risk is minimal. Just the cost of the evaluation, the activation fee, but the reward is much, much, much higher, right? So, and if for those wondering, that's how AAM Dylan gets those massive payouts. He trades off of 20 accounts at one time. So that dude literally does like $700 days, but 700 times 20, he's making like 14K a day, like minimum. Yeah, he's not doing anything crazy. Like he's literally just like trading like NQ across 20 accounts. That's pretty much all he does. And for some of you guys who I know struggle with the Greeks, futures has literally no theta decay. So let's say you snipe low of day and we end up ripping the kingdom come, you have no theta decay, so you can just ride it if you really, really wanted to, right? Of course, we have consistency rules, which I'll get into that in a little bit. Uh, but there really is it really is much more forgiving in that regard. You don't have to deal with theta, you don't have to deal with delta, you don't have to deal with any of the other Greeks. Um, what prop firm will allow for 20? Apex. Apex will. Also, the other thing too is I know that there's a lot of people who work during market hours. Um, Heat Seeker is, I think, available in pre-market for those who wanted to trade futures after hours. Uh, Futures trades 23 hours a day. Um, so I think it's closed from 5 to 6 and then opens up again at 6 all the way to overnight to Asia session to London session to New York Open. Here, I'm going to share my screen for a second too, because I'm about to explain something about the sessions here. So, also, for those who may not know, NQ and MNQ move in ticks. Um, I don't want to get too in depth about ticks because ticks and points can get a little bit confusing. So, I mean, for those interested, four ticks is equal to 1 point. So you'll see MNQ, for example, it moves in 25-cent intervals. Each 25 cents is one tick. As you know, 25 cents times four is $1. So um, four ticks is 1 point. And on NQ, um, $20 is what's leverage of 1 to 20. So for every 1 point NQ moves, you make $20. In the other scenario, MNQ, it's 1 to 2. So for every $1 MNQ moves up, you make $2. For ES, it also moves in 25-cent intervals with uh, 4 ticks in $1. So every 25 cents is 1 tick. 1 point is equal to 4 ticks. So ES moves $50 per point per dollar, or $12.50 per tick. That's 1 to 50 leverage. MES is 1 to 5. For every $1 that MES goes up, you make $5. So um, futures contracts in themselves, it's kind of like a bit like options. It's an agreement to buy or sell an underlying at a price at a standardized change contract. So in that case, like uh, the same standardized move that ES has that you see, I see as well. It gets a little bit like fluffy, but basically what I'm trying to say is like the same ES that you have is the same ES that I have. It's not like uh, you're trading an SPX contract that moves at 20 delta and I'm trading one that moves at 30 delta. The premiums kind of move differently. In that regard, for me and you, ES is going to move the same no matter what. Uh, so with that in mind, going over Asia and London sessions, um, there's 3 sessions and there's also overnights. So Asia, Asia session runs from 7 p.m. I believe until 2 a.m. So that's mainly all the overnight action. For those who keep in touch with like Bank of Japan rate cut decisions and stuff like that, usually those moves happen overnight during Asia session. London session is from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. and New York session, I believe, is from 8:30 to 4 p.m., right? So why does this matter? Because what we see a lot of the times is ES and NQ um, punting the lows of London high or Asia high or um, London lows or Asia lows. Yes, I do have a little note sheet that I'll be more than happy to share later, but it's also going to be recorded as well. So yeah, I'm happy to share some of the notes that I wrote up for you. Uh, yeah, nevertheless, yeah, so these lows and highs do end up get hunted. And for those who are familiar with Quan Yu strat, Um, he does look for what he calls like search and destroy setups. This is one of the things that he calls when we sweep London highs or Asia lows. So these levels are important because that's going to go into the next session, Asia lows or London highs. That's a liquidity hunt. And when we see these, let me see for an example here, like a London high, maybe like up here, right? Just kind of zoom this in for you guys. Can you guys see my screen just fine? Any issues? Okay, cool. Yeah. So sometimes we'll see like London highs or Asia lows get tapped and you get like some sort of reaction off of it. Maybe this isn't the most cleanest example, but you'll see it. Uh, Sometimes we double bottom off of pre-market low, which is London lows. Um, see if I can find a good example here. Yeah, but these levels do most certainly act as areas of liquidity. Guess we haven't had like a really clean one lately. Or maybe like here where if we uh come down and reclaim London lows, or maybe it's like down here. Well, if we reclaim like a swing low, like we end up tapping it and then end up ripping higher. So yeah, these levels do hold significance. You'll see them get uh swept quite a bit. Yeah, I'll say those times one more time. So Asia session is from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. London session is from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. and New York session is from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Yeah, and oh, so ES on Friday, so overnight, then pumped. Okay, let's see. Let's see if Nico's right here. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Kind of came down and kind of bottomed out, and then yeah, kind of pumped. Uh, Looks like we're getting a pretty, we got a pretty decent dip here. This right at the open here. Okay, so yeah, those session hours are important because they do act as major like pivot points in the market. If we sweep liquidity, sometimes we get reversals. So just something to keep in mind. For me, I don't use those levels that often, but I do always have them in mind as well. Um, so maybe that's just Central Standard Time. I was gonna say all of the times that I mentioned are in Eastern Time. That's my bad. So Asia session from 7 p.m. Eastern to 2 a.m. Eastern. London from 2 a.m. Eastern to 8 a.m. Eastern, and then New York from 8:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. So, next up, I would like to talk about like why these futures contracts are important. Um, yeah, so futures trades uh 23 hours a day. Uh, so why is this important, right? So sometimes we get news overnight. Sometimes we get news that I don't know, Israel attacked whoever, right? And we see the market to react to it overnight, right? Well, institutions are still repositioning their risk overnight, right? They react to global news, they react to macro events, Bank of Japan, yen carry trade, all that stuff. All that stuff happens overnight. The overseas market movers, right? So by the time New York Open hits, by the time 9:30 hits Eastern, you know, a lot of the positioning is already done, right? So that's why I put a bit of significance on ES and NQ, their levels, because that's where a lot of these large players place size. Their stops, their hedges, their rebalancing occurs like there as well, right? So that's why sometimes we see like ES levels often line up with inflection points or reaction zones on SPY. And same thing for NQ, for QQQ and NDX, right? So, if you see ES rejecting a level, SPY stalls. Or if you see NQ break in market structure, like a market structure shift, QQQ follows, right? So there's a term that I was taught here too that um, Coinbase runs with Bitcoin in the same way that SPY and SPX run with ES, right? They basically track each other, or at least Coinbase tracks Bitcoin, right? So uh, with that in mind, like this is kind of like an important point where we can kind of like bridge the concept here in the sense that Heat Seeker also tracks this dealer positioning and this pressure on SPX SPY and QQQ, right? So the positioning shows up in ES and Q, and the hedging occurs there too, right? So when we see heat seeker confluence on an ES level, we do truly have price action meeting heat seeker confluence, right? We see ES and NQ double bottoms get respected. You can say like for example, like here. Let me just clear out these old levels that I had. Or like here, where we had a previous swing low from that double bottom here in the overnight session, actually. And then we got this pump up where we ended up hitting this kind of region of resistance that's kind of been acting as strong resistance for a while now. That we came up here, tested level, and then went back down. And where did we go down to? We hunted the lows here. We got a small little bounce here, a nice decent little relief bounce and a small rally before we ended up going lower. We formed a base, hunted the lows, and then we ended up ripping higher, right? So these levels definitely do hold weight. Whereas, uh, yeah, Tuesday lows double bottomed onto The next day, ended up getting a bounce, hunted the lows again, shot up higher. So I'm gonna get into more of like how this stuff works and how I integrate this into my system next session. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna try to keep it simple, keep it simple and sweet for your the newer futures traders here. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna kind of segue here into prop firms for a second here. Um, First off, what is a prop firm, right? A prop firm is a proprietary trading firm, right? I think is the short for it. It provides traders access to capital uh, for those who prove profitability. It allows traders to access to trade with the firm's money after proving profitability and consistency. And it also pays traders a profit split, a percentage of the profits after they generate a specified profit target and following a set of predefined rules. So a lot of the times you'll see prop firms do like a 90-10 split, where 90 is in your favor, 10% is in their favor, or like an 80-20 split for my funded futures, for example. Tradeify does 90-10, right? So um, you have to follow a specific set of rules in order to be able to earn those payouts, right? So there's a distinction here, right? You're not actually depositing capital to deploy. You're paying for access to capital, right? So there's firms out there that actually you have to pay an extra fee or like an inflated amounts in order to skip evaluations and just go straight to a funded account. Um, There's certain platforms like Tradeify has it. I think Lucid Trading also has it, where you can just skip the evaluation altogether and just go straight into a funded account where you can just earn a payout right off the bat instead of having to go through a whole evaluation. I don't typically recommend that to newer traders. I generally recommend newer traders uh, try out an evaluation first because if you don't pass an evaluation the first time, you're only down $50. Whereas if you go straight to funded, maybe it'll cost you $200, right? So, um, there is that's answer question here. I thought London close overlapped the U.S. market by 2 hours. Uh, I does it? No, I think you're right. I think London is at like 11 or 12 o'clock. No, you're right. Yeah, it is 11 o'clock. I'm sorry. I don't know. Yeah, that's my bad. Yes, it runs from 2 to 11 or 12 o'clock. Yes, you're right. There is overlap. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that correction. That was my bad. Nevertheless, with that distinction, these prop firms exist to allow traders the opportunity to trade when they don't have a ton of capital to trade with. It offers you the ability to trade a 50K account without having to have 50K while still being able to have the opportunity to earn capital, right? So this is especially important because we have this amazing tool called Skylit where it has a bit of a learning curve, right? And you can trade ES and NQ like you would SPX by and QQQ without having to go through the uh, process of when you make those mistakes to end up costing you real life dollars, right? Over an evaluation, which could be like $50, $75, depending on which firm you use. Um, and with that in mind, I will kind of preface on this as well, or kind of like forewarn. These prop firms make the majority of their profits off of evaluation fees, right? They're looking for people who fail and have to buy another evaluation, and then they buy another, and then they buy another, and then they buy another, right? Their uh, worst nightmare is actually a profitable trader. You can ask Guan Yu. That dude prints hard, right? So when you pass an evaluation, you go to a sim funded environment. You don't go straight to live funded. Um, you don't go straight to live funded. They give you a sim funded account, and why do they do this, right? Because even though you pass an evaluation, it doesn't necessarily prove profitability, right? The amount of people who buy an evaluation, like the ratio of people who pass an evaluation is already low. The people who pass an evaluation and get a payout is even lower. So it makes sense for them to keep you in a sim funded environment until you begin to show them that you're consistently making payouts, because then that's money out of their wallet. And then it gets to a point where if you earn enough payouts, then they actually give you a live funded account, tangible cash, a tangible amount of money for you to trade with. And they end up telling you, you know, you're going to have to earn your money now instead of getting payouts, right? So live funded accounts are a bit trickier to trade because they don't end up giving you 50K right off the bat. They give you a small percentage of whatever your ending balance of your account was. Uh, so just keep that in mind. I typically like to stay in sim funded. I don't like life funded stages. So there is that. And just to kind of talk about the typical path to a payout, we have evaluations and challenges. You can choose to skip it and go straight to step two. But step one is evaluation challenge. You pay the fee. There is uh, a monthly fee, right? If you don't pass the evaluation in 30 days, right? If the evaluation goes into the next month, you end up having to pay another $50, for example. But that monthly fee goes away if you pass the evaluation. Um, there is no contract. No. There is some stuff you have to sign when you get a payout and you request a payout. You do have to fill out some forms. Um, and there is specific companies like Rise and Plane that give you the payout from there. So when I was getting payouts with Tradeify, they made me sign paperwork through Plane because in my region, Rise is not supported. Um, so they had me fill out like an onboarding thing and like a paperwork saying that I'm an independent contractor and stuff. So there's stuff you have to sign, but not until after you get a payout. Um, so yes, there's an evaluation fee that if you don't pass the evaluation in 30 days, you do have to pay another the same cost of the eval, right? So there's a bit of a time constraint to that. I typically tell people uh, to have the evaluation concluded within you know 20 trading days, which is a month. Um, so um, with that in mind, you have an objective. You have to hit a profit target without violating certain rules, such as trailing drawdown rules, or news trading, or sizing too heavy, or hedging. All that stuff is against certain prop firm rules. And basically, what happens when you break a rule, it doesn't mean that they liquidate your account, they take all your profit. It just means that when you request a payout, they deny it, and you have to do another stretch of a certain amount of days and hit another profit target in order to then request a payout, right? But they don't just liquidate you off the bat or just ban you for breaking rules. So drawdown rules typically is minus $2,000 on a 50K funded account. So that'd be $48,000 equity. If you break below that, your account is auto closed. It tends to be trailing drawdown as well. So let's say you open a 50K account and your very first day you have a $500 day. Your now trailing drawdown is 48,500, not 48,000, 48,500, meaning that your account can now not go below 48.5. Just an example of how trailing drawdown works. So if you have two $500 days and now your account's at 51,000, the lowest your account can go to is 49,000, and so on and so forth. At a certain point, that trailing drawdown locks. And depending on the prop firm you use, that could be 52,000, 52.5, or 53,000. By the time you hit 53,000, which is typically uh, the profit target to hit for a payout, uh, you can then withdraw a portion of that 53,000 for yourself. Um, there are certain rules, and I kind of circle back to that. There's certain rules that we must follow when trading on these prop firms, such as no news trading, no trading like during CPI, or PPI or NFP, for example, within like a 5 minute, 5 minutes before news or 5 minutes after. It's different for prop firm. You'd have to look it up. I'll just kind of go over some general examples for like Tradeify, for example. No hedging, meaning you can't buy longs on NQ and shorts on ES at the same time. You have to be unidirectional at all times. Or, for example, like scaling rules, meaning that you can't just full port like maximum amount of contracts so you can take on a 50K account. You can't just full port it. You have to follow like certain sizing guidelines because they want a consistent trader, not someone who makes 3K in one day and then blows it all the next day. Um, and certain consistency rules, which I'm gonna that kind of circles into what I said before. Consistency rules is kind of a challenging topic for people to understand. So, consistency rule is basically a way for prop firms to prevent you from making like a $2,000 day and then having to only make 500 or $1,000 to be able to get a payout. It makes it so it compels you to be consistent. So, like the most common consistency rule out there is 30%, meaning that let's say your account balance is 51,000. You had a $1,000 in positive P&L on an account. You can't make more than 30% of believe it's your largest winning day, or just the total account balance. So if you, okay, I'm just gonna explain how I do it. Um, my maximum amount that I can make in a day is $1,200 because it is a uh, 33% consistency rule, or uh 30% consistency rule, right? If I make more than that, it gets tricky because then I have to uh make that again and again and again in order to hit 30% consistency. It's kind of a tough concept to grasp. Yeah, it's 30% of profit target. Yeah. So if you have a $3,000 profit target, you can't make more than $1,000 a day. Yeah, Vanquish. I'm not sure about Vanquish. I've actually never traded options prop firms. If there is enough um, interest, I can go over it, but I've just never used them and I've never traded an options prop firm, so I can't really uh, speak on its behalf. Um, but yeah, rules will vary depending on prop firm. Some prop firms are more rule friendly than others. So just be mindful when you're picking a prop firm to look at the rules that they have in place, right? So, step two, after you pass an evaluation, you hit the profit target, let's just say $3,000 in a 50K account. You move on to a sim funded account. Still sim funded, not live funded, with the eligibility to earn real tangible cash after hitting the profit target again. Next, you reach that profit target again and again and again and again. You prove you reach consistency. You get moved to a live funded account, because then they decide, they don't want to uh, keep paying you payouts. They'd rather you have to earn that money yourself through live tangible cash. Tradeify is my preferred, yes, because I like that they have no news trading. You know, when I trade, sometimes it's like right before news, and I just don't want to put myself in a position to get denied a payout because I trade near news. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Right. So yeah, going over some of the common rules, trailing the drawdown's a big important one. Daily loss limits tells you that you can't lose more than a certain amount in one day, and that is designed to stop tilt. If you have a daily loss limit of $2,500, that basically says you can't lose more than $2,500 in a day or your account will be closed. And yep, trailing drawdown, consistency rules, and news trading. So, I'm just gonna go over like generalized like pros and cons of uh, prop firms in general. You have access to capital far larger than personal accounts, so you have access to 50K to trade with, and the opportunity to earn payouts. Your risk is capped. Your risk is whatever you bought the evaluation and the activation fee for, right? If you go straight to sim funded, it can be a little bit more expensive. Um, it does require you to be disciplined and keep entries in mind. And it does allow you to earn the potential of earning a payout, putting in a small amount of capital, but also being able to learn while keeping skin in the game, getting actual live reps in the market. Some of the cons is what you'll notice, or at least what I've experienced in the past, is a bit of psychological pressure before payouts and before passing evaluation. Because if you're like super, super close to a payout, sometimes you can feel a little bit of pressure trying to make it across the finish line, right? Uh, you must follow a strict predefined set of rules where breaking them can end up in a denial of payout, but not liquidation of profits. Um, Trailing drawdowns can be restrictive, especially at first, while you're still in the buffer stage where you're still building a buffer, right? So what a lot of people do when they open the 50K account is they size down until they reach a certain buffer point, which that usually happens around 52,000 to 53,000. Above that, the trailing drawdown goes away and there's a lot more flexibility to trade. But um, I know Dr. Eugene Thanos, he sizes down significantly when he's opening an account and he uh, kind of works up that buffer before sizing up to full size M and NQ contracts. I do it too, especially too when I'm in drawdown. Um, I tend to size down and take it slow while I work myself out if I am in drawdown, right? Not all firms are equal too. Some firms pay out less than others. Others are more lenient with withdrawal, but have stricter rules. So um, there is not one perfect prop firm. Tradeify is great, but they typically tend to pay out a little bit less than, say, Take Profit Trader, right? But then Take Profit Trader has way more rules than Tradeify. So this is like a payoff of, what you would like, right? Another big uh con that I see is we can't size for zero like we do on options, right? We can buy a spike call for $50 and be okay if it goes to zero, but we can't size for zero on a NQ contract, for example, right? Which is why it compels us to be picky with entries. And this goes into a further topic I'm going to go in a later session in the future. But learning to be picky with entries on futures has helped me become a better sniper on zero DTE as much as a swing trading, right? So futures helped me be a better sniper on zero DTE as well because I had to learn how to be very, very picky with my entries because I had to go from an environment of not having to size for zero to an environment where I had to take uh, very tight stop losses, 10-point stop losses per uh, my mentor, how he taught me to trade. 10-point stop losses on NQ is very, very small, especially with this elevated volatility. We see, QQQ go up $1.50 in minutes, which translates to like 100 points, 150 points in NQ, right? So a 10-point stop loss is so small, but sniping bottom and learning how to snipe bottom on futures or just being able to identify where a candle body can become a wick is going to be very, very integral to be able to snipe bottom and tops, which is where I got my name, John Wicks, because I had to learn how to catch candle wicks before they occurred. That's where John Wicks came from. So, with that in mind, I'm going to end on some prop firms I recommend. I recommend Tradeify. Trinity mode for London session. I've never used it for London session, to be honest. If I'm trading London session, it's because I see that maybe London is sweeping Asia highs or lows. But I don't typically use heat seeker in pre-market that much. It's usually just raw price action if I'm trading in pre-market, which I don't really trade pre-market that often. I haven't done it in the past couple of months. I used to quite a bit, just not anymore. And yeah, SPX is the only one that is available in overnight, so it can be a bit illiquid unless we get some sort of major news event. So, prop firms I recommend, Tradeify is the most trader-friendly prop firm out there. I also recommend Apex. That is a recommendation from AAM Dillon himself, my mentor before me. That is the firm that allows you to copy trade up to 20 accounts, I believe, but they're not as trader friendly as Tradeify is. So I recommend my funded futures as well, Top Step, t Take Profit Trader, Tradeify, and Apex. If I had to put them in some sort of order, I would put Tradeify at the top, my funded futures as number two, Take Profit Trader number three, Top Step number four, Apex number five. I'll put it that way. That's just me. That's just my personal recommendation. We do have a trader in Asgard who is pretty seasoned in futures and prop firm trading in general. His name is Traitor or Vic, I think he goes by in Asgard. So any further recommendations? He's tried them all. You can also ask him. Um, yes, I'll cover. Okay, yeah, it's a good one. Intraday drawdown. That's fine. Yes, that was my next talking point too, going over the brokerages. I have it right here. Um, oh yeah, Mick. Yeah, he is the guy who's like very very seasoned on uh, prop firms, and he knows all the promos that they have. Yeah, he's a great plug. So brokerages, it's a bit different on prop firms than it would be for options. Like we have Webull and Robinhood. There's Tradeovate, there's Project X, and there's NinjaTrader to name a few. Those are the most commonly used. Um, there is YouTube guides that help you go through the software. For those interested, Tradeovate also offers the ability to trade futures directly from TradingView. Kind of just click this little like arrow that comes up here, and you can here we just log out of paper trading. You see Tradeovate right here, and you can log in to here on your trading account, and you can literally buy and sell contracts from your TradingView brokerage or your TradingView app if you choose to do so. Um, yeah, thanks, Doc. Yeah, there's a prop firm Wise Discord. Yeah, they do have a ton of inside sauce regarding prop firm deals. Yeah, Take Profit Trader uses Tradeovate. Tradeify uses Tradeovate. They do use Project X, but they're going to be discontinuing Project X very soon. Top Step uses Project X. My Funded Futures uses Tradeovate. Um, I know Doc uses NinjaTrader. I don't know what prop firm he uses specifically though, but I know he uses NinjaTrader. Yeah. I'm most seasoned with Project X though. Tradeovate I am familiar with, but I tend to just trade right off of TradingView if I'm going to use Tradeovate, just because it's a lot of memory for my computer to have Tradeovate and TradingView open at the same time. So I just prefer to set limit orders or stop buys or stop sells right off of uh, uh, TradingView over just having to execute off of Tradeovate. And yeah, too in mobile access too. So yeah, that's the beauty of trading on TradingView. You can also connect to Tradeovate as well. Tradeovate does have a web app. I don't believe they have a app store app, but they do have a web app where you can also buy and sell your uh, futures contracts there as well. So as far as like notes and talking points, I'm gonna share this with you guys later. But that's pretty much like everything that I basically covered. Next week I'm gonna like this is like a pretty like simplified version of futures, like a general like overview. Next week is gonna get more into the nitty-gritty, like structure, levels, liquidity hunts, liquidity traps, going over market structure, uh, uh, catching bottoms and tops. All that stuff is gonna be covered next week. Um, so with that being said, like I am open to questions, like the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Go over questions here. The day was 21 January, 11 o'clock on Trinity. Had a very strong reaction that was quite clear from PA perspective, but you can't see it on the map. Yes, copy trading. I did cover that like briefly. Um, but so copy trading, there's a couple ways to do it. It just kind of depends on the uh what you decide to use, like Tradeovate. Like as far as just going over Felipe's question real quick. Yeah, Nico, would you mind helping him with that? Like, I just wanted to cover like prop firm basics. So copy trading, it's not in the sense that you can copy someone's trades exactly. It's more so you are able to have multiple accounts and be able to execute the exact same like limit order across multiple accounts. The amount of accounts you can have depends on the brokerage. I'm sorry, depends on the firm. So, for example, Apex you can have up to 20. Um, Whereas on Tradeify you can only have five. Take Profit Trader has a limit of five. So it just depends. You'd have to look at uh the the rules and the about us of the actual uh prop firm itself. Right? So I typically recommend two if you're going to have multiple accounts to trade micros because you don't really need to be trading full size NQ contracts if you have five accounts. 5 accounts, 5 micros. That's 25 micros across 5 accounts. You know, 25 points off of uh 5 accounts. 25 times two times five. That's like $500 just off of a 25 point move off on micros. So just something to keep in mind. Like if you're going to buy multiple accounts and trade them at the same time, just be wary of the fact that you have more potential for drawdown, but the reward is much higher as well. So I recommend sizing down. And yes, do not copy trade until you have found consistency. That is a recipe for disaster. Yes, uh, copy trading multiplies losses as much as it multiplies profits. So size down, just do one account at a time for those who've never traded futures before. Um, yeah. So pros and cons of Apex. Apex tends to be pretty strict with their rules. And they do have more of a opportunity for larger payouts than Tradeify does, as well as more ability to uh, have more accounts and scale. Whereas Tradeify tends to be more conservative and safe and more trader friendly in that regard. So I've seen Apex deny payouts for pretty like loose reasons, whereas Tradeify not really. But Apex, if you are a good trader and you're able to follow rules and manage risk appropriately, Apex is a great place to start. If not, if you're looking for something more trader friendly starting out, I typically recommend Tradeify evaluations, which tend to be pretty cheap. And there's promo codes out there all the time. I'm actually in talks with Tradeify, Apex, and Take Profit Trader to get you guys a pretty decent discount for those looking to try out features for the first time across any of those firms. I will let you guys know when they get a discount code, so that way you guys can take advantage of that. Otherwise, there's a bunch of discount codes out there if you guys wanted to get started. If not, and you wanted to wait to kind of go through the rest of Futures Clinic before deciding whether to pull the trigger on a futures account or not, you can wait then too. By then, I should have some sort of Um, discount code ready for you guys. Let's see, any other questions? How many contracts do I trade on micros typically? So I typically trade minis. I typically trade 1 to 3 full-sized NQ contracts. If I'm copy trading multiple accounts, which I haven't really been recently, I've been only trading one at a time. I typically, if I'm trading, let's say 5 accounts, I'll typically do 3 to 4 micros. And I'll usually widen my stop loss a bit too if I'm trading on multiple accounts and size down. Oh yes, that's a good point, Michael. How do I use Heat Seeker and Trinity to trade MNQ during New York session? I'm going to share these indicators, or I think someone may have done it already. We have these indicators that you can literally convert the price real time on your charts, and it'll give you actual levels as well as to where QQQ is in relation to NQ. It is this. What you have here is a price converter where you can literally see QQQ's value at this only updates during market hours, just FYI. But you can literally see QQQ's value, its literal price to the seconds next to your candle, as well as having a table down at the bottom where you can see QQQ, NDX, NQ, and NASDAQ 100. But the most important part about that is you can also see QQQ levels to the side. QQQ 623, for example, or 616 here, you can see these levels that when these candles come down and tap these levels, you can cross-reference that with your heat seeker, see whether that is a level that can get a bounce. Thank you, Doc. Yes, Doc just posted the price converters in the Zoom call for you guys. So it is for those who are watching the recording, it's going to be in your trading view, it's going to be NQ, QQQ, NDX price converter here. And the author of the script is PT Gambler. For SPX SPY and ES, simply type in SPY SPX ES into TradingView, and it'll give you that price converter too. And it is also made by the same person. Now, for those interested, not really covered in Futures Clinic, but for those who trade gold futures, there's also a gold heat seeker for those who may not be aware. And there is a price converter for GLD for those who trade gold. And as some of you may have caught wind, there is a GLD heat seeker for us to be able to trade gold futures here. Yeah, the OBEX one works well. I don't use OBEX trades price converter. Yeah, if you wanted to post the OBEX trade version, you can too. Yeah, that's fine. I've never used them though. I just kind of stick with this because it's worked for me and I don't really feel the need to switch anything up. I like it and it works well. So yeah, these GLD levels tend to get respected really, really well. There's a guy in the server who I actually did a one-on-one with. I think I went over this price converter with him and I taught him how to use GLD with GC, and it's worked out very well for him. It's RCK Trades in Discord too. He's pretty good at scalping gold using GLD Heatseeker, and he uses this price converter for his advantage. Okay, Nico, you can tell Obex. Yeah, no, but his price converter works too. Yeah, that is definitely a monster Barney on GLD. I wouldn't go trying to short GLD just yet. How does the Vex look? Uh, this is a pretty interesting looking heat map. It's GOD up to right now. I'm kind of just ripping all-time highs, huh? Yeah. No, if GOD shows some kind of topping pattern or bottoming pattern, I'll be interested in shorting it. But as of right now, like, you know, I'm not super inclined to short this because this is just squeeze into Kingdom Come. It's just the great pumpkin Charlie Brown out here. Yeah, no thanks. What I will do though is I'm gonna set alerts if we come down to 4,900 and put here GC approaching 4,900 psych, and I'll put here look for heat seeker confluence. That's the most I'll do with it. So Jennifer, the price converters that I mentioned in the uh, trading view here are done by PT Gambler, but Obex Trades uh, does the same thing. Okay, yeah, fine. I'll give Obex Trades price converters a try then. Yeah, I'll give them a try. Nick, can you DM me the indicator? Yeah, silver as well. That's a good point. Yeah, silver has a heat seeker too, which is I believe is SL1. Silver futures or SIL, I think it is. Yeah. I don't know if there's a price converter for that though. I don't know. Yes. I can't stress that enough, Nico. For those who are learning to trade futures, I recommend micros first. 100% micros first. I think I touched on that earlier, but yeah, thanks HP. Oh, is it SL? Yeah, I've never traded silver futures before. Or is it SI? Oh yeah, it's SI. Thanks. Yeah. Is there a price converter? I don't know. Maybe OBX Trade can build one. Yeah, but with that being said, like we're pretty much at the hour mark. If anyone has any further questions, feel free to just DM me or DM Nico. Nico, you were an awesome help. Much appreciated. Uh, yeah. For those who's gonna watch the playoffs tonight, um, best of luck. For those running parlays, may they fill. For those rooting for the Seahawks, go Hawks. For those rooting for the Rams, well, can't say go Rams. All right, see you, fellas. Have a wonderful night.